Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa,
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
and we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome. This is Wacky Wednesday on the Arrowhead Addict channel. I'm Adam Best here with Sterling Holmes and producer Richard, as always. Sterling, my brother, how you doing?
I've been better, man. I've been better. I'd be doing phenomenal. Like, I would be doing outstanding if Rashee Rice wasn't allegedly a dumbass. So besides that, I'm doing great.
Yeah, well, he's a dumbass, but this new thing is allegedly, because I think he admitted to the last thing. We're having multiple things now. We're gonna get into all of that. It's a great show today. Going to bring back a couple of old school show staples. We're going to discuss this Rashee Rice mess. But first, a little housekeeping.
Yes, everyone, if you are listening right now and you're in the mood to throw a little coin down, go to Caesars Sportsbooks. Go to Caesars Sportsbook, and they're looking to cover your first bet up to $1,000. New customers will get a second chance bet up to $1,000 when you sign up with our promo code ARROW1000. That means if your first bet loses, you'll get your full wager returned as a bonus bet up to $1,000. Caesars offers daily profit boosts as well as Caesars Rewards credits on every wager, which can be redeemed for bonuses, sports tickets, and other VIP experiences. Signing up with our code ARROW1000 not only covers your first bet, but also gets you access to these fantastic rewards. If you're looking to join Caesars, go download the app and register with our promo code ARROW1000 to make sure your first bet is covered. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to always gamble responsibly and check the episode description for the full terms of the offer to see if you qualify.
All right. This week, Hot Take Kingdom makes a triumphant return. Well, we'll see about that. After a long hiatus. And my hot take is, you ready for this?
Oh, baby, I am born ready for this one.
The Chiefs need to give Rashee Rice an intervention. Welcome to the kingdom.
No dancing today, baby. No dancing when this is going on.
It's been so long.
No, Richard, you're not playing it again. I am not dancing.
Yeah, no dancing. I had to dance. People bitch when we don't dance, and it's just been so long since we've done this. I don't even remember the last time. So let's travel back to 2012. I was much younger. Sterling was about 4 years old. And Dez Bryant was misbehaving off the field. What did the Cowboys do? They pushed him to agree to some conduct guidelines. And here are the guidelines. It's ridiculous that they had to do this, but it worked. A midnight curfew, no booze, no strip clubs or nightclubs, counseling sessions twice a week, a rotating security team will serve as a full-time chaperone. So, basically round the clock supervision for a grown man. And these pro babysitters drive him absolutely everywhere. That's what happened. What was the result of that? Well, Dez got his shit together and he responded with his best 3 seasons, averaging 1,312 yards each year. The Chiefs could do something similar. And again, this is not what we want to be talking about. However, Rashee Rice is throwing his life away. And the Chiefs' three-point chances, the three-peat chances, I don't want to say they're going down the drain, because with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, you always have a shot. But this is becoming a debacle that decreases their odds for sure. And it's really frustrating to see someone like Rashee Rice win the football lottery and burn the ticket, just set the ticket on fire. Because I can't tell you how many receivers in the NFL, and we'll get to one of them a little bit later, who are similar and would die to be in a Mahomes Reed offense. Sometimes whether your career in the NFL works out or not, especially for a receiver, is just based on situation. And he got the best situation a receiver could get currently in the league, one of the best situations in league history. And they took a chance on him. We didn't know this as much then, but he was off some draft boards. And there were some major character concerns about his crowd and his attitude. And the Chiefs said, we're going to take you into our locker room. We're going to hope that our culture wins out. We're going to bet on that. And for a season, it did. He was a great part of that championship run. They couldn't have done it without him. But now it's getting messy. So I think the Chiefs have to step in and do something if they want him to stay on this roster, because I don't know how many more mistakes he can make before the league says enough is enough. Sterling, you've heard my case. Are you coming into the castle or staying outside the walls?
Oh, dude, I'm running into the castle. I mean, this is absurd. Like, what, 40, I think it was 47 days after they won the Super Bowl, he has his drive-in incident, and it could have gone a lot worse. I mean, we could be talking Henry Ruggs type situation, and we're sitting here, and we all heard that, you know what, I'm going to man up after, of course, he runs away from the scene, which you or I or anyone listening would be in jail for. But okay, he owns up now. Thank you for owning up now. That's great. You're going to get this taken care of, right? You're going to stay out of trouble. And you heard Andy Reid, I believe, talk on April 15th say, have you lost any trust in Rashee? And he answers along the lines of, well, as long as he keeps doing the right thing, keeps his nose out of trouble, we'll be okay. 30 some odd days later, this happens. Are you serious? Now, I understand there's certain things. This is all allegedly right now. This is all alleged, okay? But supposed a photographer, and so far, he's not pressing charges against Rashee. So far, that's what I've heard. He's not pressing charges against Rice. What does that tell us? Does that tell us that maybe the photographer knew he was getting up in the guy's grill and maybe he was a little too aggressive with Rashee? Or he's basically saying, hey, I'm in touch with his agent. Hopefully we can get paid behind the scenes. This will all blow over. Again, all allegedly, we will see. There's so many angles that you can take, and they all point to this being a horrendous decision from Rashee Rice. When you have all these felony charges levied against you, and you decide to go out to a place at 2:30 in the morning, and you're out at the good old lit kitchen and lounge. Maybe dude is just chilling at the kitchen and lounging at the lit place, but come on now, man. Like, you, as you mentioned, won the wide receiver lottery. Even if you did not have felony charges levied against you, maybe don't do this right here, guy. And for all the people saying, well, maybe he needs new friends. Maybe Rashee's the bad friend. Maybe everyone else is the guy like saying, I told you don't hang out with Rashee. He's bad news. Who rented the cars? Was it the friends or was it Rashee? Who was driving the cars? Allegedly, one was Rashee. My point here is maybe he's the bad friend. Why are we blaming everyone else? Yeah, maybe he shouldn't have gone down to his hometown. He finally has some money with him, all that stuff. That's outstanding. But maybe Rashee is the bad friend because you don't keep doing this. This is now a pattern, right? Again, allegedly, we'll see what happens. But you can't do this when you're trying to prove, not just to your team, but to the NFL, that was a one-off. That what you did, being a dumbass, racing your car 120 miles during the day when cars are there and people can get seriously injured, that's a one-off. You're trying to prove to everyone, Roger Goodell and your team, that that's just not you. That was a one-time thing. You admit, I was wrong. And then this, again, allegedly. But come on. Goodell's going to come down hard. The NFL is going to come down hard, and we'll see what the Chiefs do. Because we understand the Chiefs, it's not just what you do off the field, it's how you come and respond to the team. If he told Brett Veach that, hey, you know what, I'm done, this is not me, it's a one-time thing. And all of a sudden, now they have legit trust issues, that was what got Kareem Hunt kicked off the team. It was lying, right? It was
exactly.
Lying.
This feels a lot like the Kareem Hunt situation, not in terms of what they did, but in terms of can they be trusted? There's a track record here. There's a pattern. And I'm in agreement with you. Who's to say Rashee Rice isn't the bad influence himself? He clearly thinks that he's, I don't know, above the law, invincible, all of the above. He's not taking things seriously. Man, you got felonies against you. And beyond that, if you just keep your head down and do what you did last year, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to help carry you to a $50 million contract, a $100 million contract. It is just bizarre that he can't get his shit together. Why are you out? Why are you even out? Stay at home. Stay at home, put your head down and grind.
Play video games, dog. Like, you know what? I want you to be Kyler Murray. You stay up and play video games till 2:30 because that means you're not out.
Call of Duty all day.
It's just he's made $6.5 million, I think, on his rookie contract. I think that's what it is, $6.5 million over 4 years. The lawsuits against him are already, I believe, are over 11 million. Dude, what are you doing? Like, seriously, what are you doing? His lawyers right now are either furious because, come on, dude, you're making it harder on them, or they're saying, finally, we get more work. We're getting just a bleep ton of work here. Like, at some point, be Kyler. You know what? Bleep it. Be Kadarius Toney. I wish he was only obnoxious on IG and had a SoundCloud. At this point, that's what I would actually want for Rashee. That's better than what he's doing.
It's just so sad to watch it happen because we all see where this is going. And he's going to look back when he has nothing and say, man, I threw it all away. And it's just not fair to the organization that entrusted him to such a degree, despite those red flags, that they spent a second-round pick on him. They traded up to select him, and they made him an integral part of their offensive attack as a rookie and really leaned on him down the stretch. They showed a lot of faith, a lot of trust in him, and it's just not great to see him reward the franchise like this. I'm a little worried that he can turn it around on his own. I think they might have to take drastic measures. And this is a really good player. This was a rookie receiver who had more yards under Andy Reid than any other rookie receiver. So, yeah, this is a little bit of a special situation, especially considering the Chiefs' predicament. Xavier Worthy hasn't played a pro snap. Hollywood Brown is consistently hurt. We know Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney cannot be counted on. Justin Watson, bless his heart, is a good wide receiver forward, but he's mostly just a guy. And Travis Kelce is not going to be superhuman forever. So they really need Rashee Rice this year.
And I get everyone in the chat right here. They're talking about it, and I want to get into that in just a moment with you, Adam. I know we'll talk more about wide receivers in general and how actually I think this really affects what the Chiefs' game plan might have been. I keep seeing a lot of, get away from these so-called friends. Well, sure, I get all that stuff. No one forced him to rent out a couple of Lambos and drive on 120. That's not his friends. That's on him. No one told me he had to go to a nightclub until 2:30 a.m. That's on him. Like, at some point, I get what you're saying. It can be the friends you hang around with, but when the common denominator comes back to you, you're the bad friend. You're the one that is I don't want to say malcontent, but you're the one that's causing the issues. Maybe the friends are too, but I can't blame friends. 24-year-old, I get one mistake, sure, horrendous. But when all that's going on, you can't even put yourself in the same situation there, or I guess in another poor situation.
I get it too. He's a young guy with a lot of money, and it's a tough situation to be in. But how is Trent McDuffie handling that situation? How is George Karlaftis handling that situation?
How's Mahomes handling? Mahomes has more money than he knows what to do with.
And more fame thrown at him. He went from a relative unknown to one of the most famous athletes in the country in the span of a year and handled it unbelievably well. Now, his father was a pro athlete that kind of groomed him for this stage, but I think we're seeing other Chiefs handle the limelight perfectly or near perfectly, and Rashee just can't seem to get it all together. And frankly, I'm just afraid, again, that he's going to throw it all away unless Clark Hunt, Brett Veach, and Andy Reid do something outside the box here to intervene and kind of reel him back in.
Sure. And I saw an interesting comment in here earlier. I apologize. Someone was asking, I think it was Phantom right here. Phantom says, at what point do we hold coaches and front office accountable for signing these players? Man, I don't know. I get what you're saying, but at some point, these are grown men now, right? Like these are grown men. At some point, they have to be responsible. You're saying, hey, we're taking a chance on you. We're drafting you. I don't know how much you want to hold the front office accountable for that. I mean, if there was this incredible pattern before he came to Kansas City, then you could have some question marks, but it wasn't like this guy had a whole bunch of DUIs or a whole bunch of things out in the open that were these massive red flags. Now we're starting to see some come out from some reporters that there were some red flags, but it wasn't this massive common knowledge. Kind of the same with Kareem Hunt, like Joe Mixon, right? Wasn't it Joe Mixon that had the whole thing? Haven't heard a thing from him in the NFL. Have you? Like, I don't know what he's done.
No, and it wasn't like this year with Jermaine Burton or Adonai Mitchell, where there was this buzz around their behavior and their character concerns. There was just a few things, and I don't know. It's hard to put a lot of blame on the Chiefs Brain Trust because these rosters are 53 players. A lot of them are young men in their early 20s. It's hard to find any group of young men in their early 20s who are going to not make mistakes. I made mistakes. I'm sure Sterling made mistakes. We've all made mistakes. These mistakes are just getting to the point where they're just not acceptable. And especially when your city depends on you, your franchise depends on you, and you're making millions of dollars to play football. Yeah, you kind of have to be a role model. You kind of have to behave yourself out in public. You can't have this kind of conduct.
It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
I know everyone's always act like they're, I shouldn't be a role model just because I'm an athlete or
the Charles Barkley, right?
Yeah, I get that stuff, but also it's a trade-off, man. I'm not saying that people have to look up to you, but you will be in the spotlight. You will be in the limelight. And again, this is all alleged, but like, if you're going to a place, you're going to get photographs. Like even if the photographer is getting up in your grill and all that stuff, I get that. That's obnoxious. That's annoying. Again, we don't know exactly what has happened, but the point remains, if you're going to a nightclub at 2:30 in the morning, you're out there, the lit kitchen and lounge, and a photographer does get up in your grill, I get that stuff. Maybe you're pissed off by that. Doesn't matter. Wherever you go, especially with what's transpiring off the field already this offseason, people are going to take your picture. Even if that didn't happen, you just won a Super Bowl and now you're back in your hometown. You think people still won't take a picture of you? Even if it's whether you think it's right or wrong, it's going to happen. Like the awareness there is non-existent. Again, I have no idea what the photographer did. I have zero idea. We won't know yet. We won't. Point still remains, you have to know as a player, as an athlete, again, not saying you have to be a role model, but just the awareness that you will have someone that's probably going to annoy you. You kind of earned that right when you did what you did earlier this offseason. It's going to happen. I don't know how you put yourself in that situation. I've done dumbass things. We all have.
Right. Same.
But come on.
Yeah. And the spotlight of the Kansas City Chiefs kind of demands you to keep your nose extra clean. I mean, now not only back-to-back Super Bowl champions and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, but the whole Taylor Swift thing, I think, has put them under the magnifying glass even further. I just don't know what else to say. He should just be staying home, playing video games, working out like a demon. This is not something that's going to help him out with a prosecutor, with a judge. They want to know that you're contrite, that you are taking the wrongdoing that you did that could have been much, much worse. He's very lucky he didn't kill somebody or hurt somebody worse than he did. And right now, if you're a judge or a prosecutor or anybody else that's going to be involved in the legal proceedings, you're looking at Rashee and saying, I don't think he's learned his lesson. And that's not going to go well for him.
No. Talking about what this means for the Chiefs wide receiver room going forward, we're going to get into some wide receivers together, but I do want to bring up some of the things that I find fascinating that I think this directly correlates to what the Chiefs potentially would have or would not have done. Because I was talking with some guys today, and we all somewhat agreed that this happened on Sunday night, aka Monday morning at 2:30 a.m., right?
Mm-hmm.
School night. Come on. It's a school night, Rashee. And Odell Beckham Jr. signed. DJ Chark has already signed. Tyler Boyd signed yesterday. We all think that the Chiefs probably didn't know about this situation until we all knew about this situation, until the media found out about this situation. Because I don't think, based on what we found out from the first time, good old Rashee Rice is calling up Andy and the Chiefs saying, hey, guys, I messed up again. I don't think that's happening. I don't think that's going to be his first call. So more than likely, at least from what I am saying here, I would imagine the Chiefs found out about this the second that we all found out about this, which means Tyler Boyd's off the market, Odell Beckham Jr. is off the market, DJ Chark's off the market. Would they have been more apt to go after Odell Beckham Jr. or specifically Tyler Boyd, which happened post this incident, if he would have been upfront from the get-go? Do you think the Chiefs have said, you know what? Man, okay, that sucks. Thanks for letting us know, because now on the football side of things, we can go out and try and bring another wide receiver in. Now all you got left is Zay Jones, the corpse of Michael Thomas, who's basically feeling like a Josh Gordon signing at this point. You have Hunter Renfrow, who I can get into in a moment with you. I just think that not only is Rashee Rice in this situation brutal off the field, brutal for him personally, which, again, we've talked about ad nauseum. I'm not trying to get too much into his personal life here, but for the Chiefs' perspective here too, you're sitting here going, all these guys are now off the market. We may have pursued someone else harder. Bleep it. Are they going to have to bring back an MVS or McCall Hardman just because there's hardly anyone left on the market?
Possibly. Tyler Boyd would have been a good fit for this particular position. He's not exactly the same kind of power slot, but he's sort of a bigger slot compared to the little pop gun guys like Hunter Renfrow that I don't really think are as good of a fit for this, let's say, yak-focused attack on offense. I think Juju and Rashee Rice both show that a bigger body who can sit down, bust zone, and rack up yards after the catch is the ideal player for that situation. And there just aren't a lot of options left. We will get into some of those, but the Chiefs did act. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. Brett Veach hadn't done that during his tenure. So I do think they've taken this very seriously. Maybe that was a response to teams playing a certain way against them and taking away the deep ball and MVS not being a reliable field stretcher. But you have to think the Rashee Rice, let's just call it saga, gave them a little bit more of a sense of urgency heading into the draft.
Yeah, and if you're Rashee Rice's agent, you have to be saying, dude, I get you had a good year last year. Hey, I get you had a good rookie year. The Chiefs just brought in a fairly big name free agent. The Chiefs just drafted a first-round wide receiver. Remember how you're drafting the second round, Rashee? Chiefs just drafted a first-round wide receiver. You might think that all of a sudden this second contract's coming. It's about to be a lot of money. What did the Chiefs just tell you this past offseason? What did they just – what were the signs? Where do they point? Yeah, they like you, but they still brought in a potential wide receiver one in Hollywood Brown. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round. If you're the agent, you got to have a long conversation with Rashee saying, hey, man, you might feel like you're on top of the world right now. It can be gone just like that.
And they let your predecessor walk after he helped them win the Super Bowl. They didn't re-sign Juju. So there's another warning sign. You know, the falling rock signs are all scattered along the road, and he's just refusing to see them. I don't know what more we can say other than shifting here, transitioning here to what the Chiefs could do in this situation, how to get some insurance. So let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. We're glad to also welcome back one of our favorite games, the Kansas City stock market. I guess it's time to hit the trading floor.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
Fugazi, Fugazi, it's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
Tell me the difference between stupid and illegal, and I'll have my wife's brother arrested.
First, Treylon Burks might be on the trade block. The Chiefs should make another trade with the Titans and get some power slot insurance. Pump or dump.
Oh, it's hilarious because I like Treylon Burks a lot. I loved him coming out of college. I'm I'm also an idiot, so let's be real now. I don't know how much you guys want to take my word for this, but I like Treylon Burks, even though he's done hardly anything in the NFL. He's missed games in both of his 2 NFL seasons so far. It's very Sky Moore. He's actually had more production than Sky Moore, but that's not saying a lot. Part of me is sitting here, the good old player-for-player swap. Just say, hey, Sky, Treylon, let's just do a new scenery type of move here. Titans, I don't think, would go for that, but I think it'd at least be intriguing. You know what that happens sometimes? The Royals did it with, was it Jonathan Sanchez? And the Chiefs did it with John Baldwin, and they got back, what's his name, from the 49ers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I can't remember who it was, but I remember the deal.
Yeah, it's not unheard of for it to happen, but it is very rare, the player-for-player swap. I've always liked Treylon Burks, so we'll see. But I would at least be intrigued by this. So I guess I'd pump just based on I think it'd be a very low acquisition cost.
Yeah, and this is kind of a big debate on Chiefs Twitter. It's not quite Drake versus Kendrick, but it's getting pretty spirited on there.
AJ Jenkins, thank you, Tone B. AJ Jenkins, thank you.
Yeah, it seems to be what everyone's talking about because with Tyler Boyd now in Tennessee, along with Calvin Ridley, who just arrived, and DeAndre Hopkins, it's a new regime there. They have no loyalty to Treylon Burks. He doesn't have a spot or a path to getting on the field with those 3 receivers. So they might want to jettison him and get whatever, your whole sunk cost thing. They might want to recoup whatever they can. And that's why I think he's available. Let's look back at who he was coming into the draft, because like I said earlier, Rashi Rice, if you trade Treylon Burks and Rashee Rice, I think Rashee Rice is a little bit better prospect, but I don't know if Rashee Rice succeeds in Tennessee these past couple of years. They've had Ryan Tannehill has been dust. Their offensive line has been decrepit. No A.J. Brown, no Arthur Smith. For all Arthur Smith's problems in Atlanta, he was a good offensive coordinator when he was with the Titans. I mean, he had that.
It would be hard to mess it up.
Well,
it was run the ball 35 times a game and then the other 20 run play action.
And dump it into a God tier receiver. So I will acknowledge that, but the new regime there, or the previous offensive coordinator and offensive staff didn't do him any favors. So among college receivers who saw 50 plus targets, it's a decent amount. Treylon Burks was 3rd in yards per route run in 2021 at 3.57, sandwiched in between Puka Nacua and Jackson Smith and Jigma. You might have heard of those guys. Elite yards per route run versus zone at Arkansas, 3.8. That is important because we're looking for a zone buster, and we're looking for a zone buster out of the slot. And he had 708 yards out of the slot that year at Arkansas. And again, the Titans offense fell apart. So I think you can tell yourself a story that things haven't worked out in Tennessee because of his health, and they don't know what they're doing. And they don't know what they're doing. The evidence there is he should be in the slot. That's where they played him in college. 2/3 of the time, that's where he excelled. They incorrectly have used him in Tennessee outside 70 or 80% of the time. That's just not going to work. That's not going to work at all. And I think one of the drawbacks people are having, or one of the criticisms of Treylon Burks is he's not an elite athlete. At the wide receiver position, especially in the slot, I don't think that's as important. If you look at the relative athletic scores of CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and specifically Cooper Kupp, they're not going to blow you away. And I'm not saying he's those guys. I'm not even saying he's Rashee Rice. But I do think Andy Reid and Matt Nagy could utilize him properly, make him give you something of Rashee Rice, like maybe 75%, even 60%. And that may be the best option on the board when everybody else is kind of like washed vets. So I'm with you. I'm going to give it a pretty substantial pump, depending on price. I don't want to give up a 3rd or 4th for him. But if the price is a 5th, now we're talking. If it's a 6th or a 7th, it becomes a hell yes.
What I do find interesting, and you're right, Treylon Burks has not been put in the right spot or put in the right position, even on the field a lot of the times. But I think if you're a Titans fan or if you're a fan of 31 other teams, you might say the same thing with Sky Moore. Like right. You might say this, and again, because we've seen him every single day and we know what he's been, and Sky Moore has not been used in the best spot either. And what's interesting is I've said this, I don't necessarily like this, but I think it's a real possibility. Because Rashee Rice kind of screws the whole situation here because you're sitting here going, all right, well, now we had him planned as the power slot. Who knows if they would have drafted McConkey or someone else. Again, you don't give up 8 games for 5 years, but can you count on Rashee Rice to be here in next year? Like, yeah, at this point, how much can you rely on him? My concern is, I don't know if it's a concern. My thought process is we're going to see Sky Moore in the slot a lot to start the season. What I'm nervous about is if Andy does his Andy thing with rookie wide receivers, we'll see a real non-fun lineup of Hollywood Brown, Sky in the slot, and it won't be Worthy on the other outside spot doing all the orbit and stuff. You might see some Justin Watson, and that's going to be a real big bummer because I do think the loss of Rashee Rice is going to open up a lot more playing time for either Tony, but more importantly, Sky Moore. One of those two guys has to step up. I think Tony might be more talented. I probably believe in Sky Moore a little bit more. Based on cost acquisition, the Chiefs give up a second rounder to get Sky, give a third for Tony. I wonder who has the first crack, but with Rashee Rice, however many games he's going to miss, Sky Moore might be the benefactor of the loss, and I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing.
He's been around for less time in the league than Kadarius Toney. So, and also I trust Sky Moore not to be a knucklehead off the field and disrupt the culture. I'm not like enthralled by his production or the way he looks so far. So I'm not thrilled about it either. It's a very small receiver lineup of Hollywood Brown, Xavier Worthy, and Sky Moore. If Justin Watson gives you at least a little bit of size.
But I don't see Worthy, Watson, and Hollywood being on the field at the same time.
No,
that because who's playing the slot at that point?
I think you can put Hollywood Brown as. I think you can have him in the slot some. I think you can move both those guys in the slot a little bit. He's been effective out of the slot,
sure,
but not like, you can't have him in the slot like 60, 70% of the time. That's not what he's built for. He's not just. I don't know what you do. I don't know. And you bring McCole Hardman in. That's another guy who weighs 170 pounds. You just can't do it. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd rather bring back Marquez Valdez-Scantling than McCole Hardman because at least he can block and give you a slightly different archetype of receiver. And I think I'm going to throw up in my mouth after having said that, but it makes sense. It tracks.
It's wild, man. It's wild how this went from one of the greatest off seasons. I'm not saying all the people they brought in, but just such a fun feeling. Chiefs winning back-to-back Super Bowls are going for a three-peat. Everything's looking up. This has really put a damper on everything. And now we're sitting here with a little question marks. I guess the one positive is, even without Rashee, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl last year with basically you, me, and the Blue Valley North wide receiver room. Shout out BVN. Come on, baby. I'm just sitting here like, okay, as much as it does suck, if there's one position that Mahomes can elevate that has got it done, it's wide receivers. So there's at least some semblance of hope that the Chiefs can three-peat even without Rashee Rice.
Yeah, and maybe tackle too. If we did not have Mahomes as this tremendous cheat code, this elevator of wide receivers, we would be freaking out. If we were another franchise and our best receiver from the previous season did this, we would be freaking out. But Mahomes has kind of made us like, oh, this sucks. I'm worried, but I still have hope because I know this guy can put it all on his shoulders. And the floor is just so high, even if you have a beer vendor and a ball boy out there as his receivers. It just doesn't matter that much. Now, I don't know if he's going to win it all, but he's going to come damn close regardless who he's throwing to.
All right, next one. The Chiefs should sign veteran receiver Michael Thomas as insurance pumper dump.
I'm going to go, big dump here, massive dump. You already said the corpse word, so I'm not sure I'm going to top you there. But paltry 1.38 yards per route run in 2023. hasn't had more than 40 catches since 2019. You can't count on him to be in the field. And then you have kind of the diva attitude, the potential locker room issues. This just seems like a nightmare. I know Michael Thomas, the name, might feel secure to fans, but you're paying for past production if you bring a guy like that in. And also, he's a year older now, so he might even be worse than he was in New Orleans last season. I just think this is a bad idea. I know a lot of people that cover the Chiefs and root for the Chiefs are looking for a vet who can kind of come in and bring some leadership and raise the floor just a tiny bit. I don't think this is the guy.
Yeah, again, there's not many free agent wide receivers. If you guys want to take a look, you have Hunter Renfrow, Michael Thomas, McCole Hardman, MVS, and Zay Jones. Now, Zay Jones, if I had my druthers, I think Zay Jones actually makes a lot of sense. He's a similar size to Rashee Rice. I mean, it's eerily similar. I would like Zay Jones. I think that makes a lot of sense. Michael Thomas, I will say this. I don't have a strong feeling on this like you do either way. I don't think his contract's going to be such that's going to make me all of a sudden say, oh, how the hell did they do that? Like, yeah, he's not been good in years, mostly because of injury. I'm sitting here going, he's not going to get paid like that, though, either. He'll probably sign, if he wants to keep playing, $3 million. One of those up to fives where it's $2 million and up to $5 where the words up to are doing all the heavy lifting. I don't hate it if they sign him, but I'm not going to get super stoked. It does remind me a lot of Josh Gordon. That's what it feels like if you bring in Michael Thomas.
Yeah, and for me, it's just a philosophical thing. The history of aging receivers who are into their 30s and have a long history of lower body issues, the track record is atrocious. And yeah, you can cherry pick and say, well, DeAndre Hopkins worked last year. Well, Adam Thielen worked last year. Well, DeAndre Hopkins has never really relied on his athleticism to win and hasn't had as many injuries. And then Adam Thielen, the only reason Adam Thielen worked is because they had to stick him in the slot. They stuck him in the slot. He couldn't win anywhere else. They actually screwed themselves because Jonathan Mingo needed to be in the slot. And he's another guy that I think would have worked out if he was in Kansas City. I mean, maybe we should call them. They don't really seem – they just drafted Xavier Legette, so maybe Jonathan Mingo's available.
Hey, bleep that. Is Adam Thielen available? Throw him in the slot.
Oh, man, he's –
Yeah, Joshua Clayton's on the right page. He says, is Thielen available? Yeah, see, Joshua? I see you, baby. Yeah, Adam Thielen in the slot. Also, he's one of the best red zone receivers, it seems like, for the past 8 years. Look at the touchdown numbers. It's stupid how effective Adam Thielen's been in the red zone.
Very smart, very tough, great route runner, but he looked slow last year. I mean, a lot of his catches were just like he's getting peppered at like 4 or 5 yards a pop, if that.
I see a question from Gary Holland. Says, hey, guys, would you send Rice to Miami and a draft pick for Waddle? Miami ain't even going to listen. Oh, it's at least a first rounder at a minimum. I don't think that Miami even entertains that.
Yeah, you're going to get laughed at and hung up on. It's a good thought, but
right now, until they see the suspension and Rice in general, he's going to have to stay out of trouble for at least a year before any team would even consider anything with him. His value to a team right now is pretty close to zero.
I get the thought, though. He's a number 2 receiver for his team. Things haven't really been working out for Miami, but I think the combination of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle really kind of paves the way for that special run game they have in Miami. So I don't see them wanting to go away from that. They just drafted another speed demon running back. They're obsessed with speed more than any team we've ever seen in probably the history of the league. I mean, maybe Al Davis was this obsessed with speed, but I can't think of anybody else off the top of the dome. Yeah.
All right, next one. The Chiefs should go big game hunting and surrender future draft capital to add a receiver as a Rice alternative. Pump or dump, and I guess the name I would throw out, don't think it would ever happen because of the team, T. Higgins.
Yeah, T. Higgins. Well, actually, a really interesting name. And people could say that they wouldn't trade for us, but they just traded for us in the draft, is Deebo Samuel. That's an interesting name because when you have Rashee Rice on the roster, well, it's not really a fit. But if you're looking to move on from Rashee Rice, he's actually a great fit. But I'm going to dump here. I just don't think it's realistic given Veach's track record, especially his track record once Mahomes got paid, and the way they've spent money and where they've allocated resources. I just don't think this is plausible. I'd love for them to entertain it, but also at this point in the season, you're not going to see a lot of trades for major stars. It just doesn't really happen very often. They're probably going to have to wait until the trade deadline. I think that's a prudent strategy. Wait until the trade deadline, see who probably thinks they have a shot now, and will have a come to Jesus moment halfway through the season, and maybe they'll be more agreeable to moving somebody. God, Cooper Kupp would be awesome if the Rams have a bad season, but he's so expensive. You can't do. I just don't see the way the Chiefs pull this off. It's like who and with what money. And you agree on this one?
Yeah, again, I think the thought is awesome. I think the actual execution of this is near impossible. Mahomes, as much as we like to say it's a team-friendly deal, which it is comparatively, it's still not a rookie contract, right? You also have Chris Jones getting paid. Travis Kelce's now getting paid a good amount of money, highest paid tight end now, right?
Jawan Taylor,
Joe Tooney. Yeah, you're like not paying a wide receiver, but you're paying a guard, you're paying a right tackle, pretty much top dollar. You're paying a quarterback top dollar. You're paying a defensive tackle top dollar. With all the potential players who are up for contract extensions at the end of this year, I don't think, and kind of quite frankly, almost during the Mahomes era, I don't think we're going to see another high-paid wide receiver. They're going to draft a wide receiver, have him play 4 or 5 years. If he's just an absolute stud, a la Tyreek Hill or like a legit wide receiver one, they might trade him, kind of like Tyreek, get what you can back and try the whole process over again. It's going to be, in my opinion, those middle-of-the-road guys, the aging stars, and then the rookie contracts is how they're probably going to, as we've seen from Brett Veach so far, keep his wide receiver room together.
Yeah. I don't know how much I'm going to read into the Tyreek Hill trade because I think there are some other issues there. So it's hard to say what he would do. Also, if Chris Jones comes off the books, if Travis Kelce comes off the books,
Joe Tooney comes off the books. Yeah.
Right. It's a different situation then. So they might allocate resources differently. But right now, I just feel like this is fan fiction. It's probably not even worth spending any more time on, to be honest. As fun as it is, it's just not going to happen. So let's move on to the final one. The Chiefs should be patient at wide receiver because Mahomes gives them a super steady floor regardless of situation. Pump or dump.
Whatever the bleep Mahomes wants, I am in for. If Mahomes says, you know what, guys, I think that honestly, they should just go to Patrick, Brett Veach, Andy Reid, and just off the record say, can you get this done this year? Can you get it done with the group of receivers we have given you? They can even say, you know, Rashee's going to probably only be here half the season. He's only going to be here 4 games, whatever it is. They need to have an honest conversation with Mahomes, and Mahomes has to be honest with them and say, hey, can you get it done with these guys? Because he got it done last year with worse wide receivers, right? Maybe it's slightly more depth if you want to consider MVS depth and McCole Hardman knowing the playbook depth, right? Like, they're going to have that. He does give you a steady floor, and I think keeping him upright and giving him a good defense is more important than giving him a legitimate wide receiver one, just an absolute stud, because Mahomes can make wide receivers better. He made those guys better last year. Now, he took him from real bad to bad, but he can't make the defense better. He can't make other guys on the team better when he's running for his life nonstop. So I think that Brett Veach and the team has understood the roster construction there. But in regards to a Zay Jones, a Michael Thomas, one of those guys who are still out there, they need to have a serious conversation with Mahomes and say, hey, do we need to bring one of those guys in? Or are you okay with what we have right now? That conversation has to happen.
Yeah, I get what you're saying about the defense. I think that's mostly true. I also believe that Mahomes is good enough that he's putting up points and sustaining drives and keeping the defense off the field. So he does help them a little bit, opposed to many of the quarterbacks in the NFL that can't do those things. But you're mostly right. He can't directly elevate the talent on the defensive side of the football. I totally agree. I just don't think it's really fair to ask him to do this again. He's given them 2 miracles. I mean, the rest of the league has to be kicking themselves. The Chiefs gave them an opportunity to beat Kansas City when they had a subpar receiving core, when they had a situation where the offense was a little bit broken, was a little bit defective, and they did not capitalize. And this was supposed to be the year where they put things back together and gave him an above average set of weapons. And now it's looking like that might not be the case. It just sucks for Mahomes. I mean, I don't think a lot of people around the league are going to shed tears for Mahomes, but you would just love to see him in an optimal offense again instead of a suboptimal one.
Sure, but and again, this is anecdotal here, so it's a little unfair. When the Chiefs had the best offenses, they were losing the Super Bowls, they were losing the AFC Championship game. They won one with Tyreek, right? When they've had a better defense and a better offensive line, well, they're 2 for 2. The Patriots, when they had their best offensive seasons, they went 16-0 in the regular season, and they lost. They never won with Randy Moss when he was there in New England. Like, I think we get so enamored with the funness and the electricity of awesome offenses. Sometimes we forget it's all 53. Like, it takes a full team. As much as Mahomes elevates everyone, and we can feel bad for Mahomes not having a legit wide receiver one, he still has Travis Kelce, Hollywood Brown, and a first rounder in Xavier Worthy this year. That is better than last year. I just think it's hard. I think roster construction is harder than people realize, especially in the salary cap era when you have a quarterback on a non-rookie deal. It's just, again, why did the Seahawks only win 1? And that was when Russell Wilson was on a rookie contract. Why did the Bills and the Bengals have all their success when their quarterbacks were on rookie deals? It's much easier to pay everyone else. Look at the Bengals now. Look at the Bills now. The Chiefs have won 3 Super Bowls. They're the favorites going in to win back-to-back-to-back. I would say Brett Veach and what they've done roster construction-wise, whether it's fair or unfair to Mahomes, well, it's worked damn well.
I agree it's worked damn well. It's just aggravating that because of Rashee now, things might not work out again. It's not fun to watch that offense at times. And just from a football standpoint, I don't want to watch the Panthers versus the Raiders. I don't like ugly Thursday night football games. I like aesthetically pleasing football, and I'm not going to apologize for it. But a lot of times that's not what matters. I think you're absolutely right. The Chiefs have learned to eke out victories. Mahomes losing Tyreek Hill, I think, forced him to mature in ways he didn't have to mature when Tyreek Hill was on the roster. He's become, I mean, the difference from even 2022 to 2023 in the short game and how he managed the pocket and kind of the decisions he made was night and day. He's still improving, which is that has to be terrifying to the rest of the league, that he's still figuring out new ways to win. So you can put this on his shoulders. I just wish there was a world where we didn't have to, you know?
Oh, I get it, man. And Dinkin and Duncan and all that stuff, I get it. It's not as exciting. But do you want sexy football or do you want winning football? Because there's a difference. Miami, they were fun, right? Dolphins, great. Look at that offense.
Until it got cold, right? Until they played somebody good.
The game is won and lost in the trenches. Man, I just think Matt Verderame right now. Like that's like the most Verderame I've ever just like old school football. But I think there is legitimately something to that.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs obviously value corner. They might not like bring the defensive backs back because they're so good at developing them, and they're so good in terms of scheme and coaching and all that kind of stuff. But they are perpetually reloading there. So I think they do value it. But obviously, if you look at the draft capital, if you look at the trades when Veach has been around, defensive line, offensive line are the priorities. I expect them to continue to be the priorities because, you know, there's a clear trend here from Brett Veach, and it's working. It's working. I guess the hard thing about Mahomes is he's so good. I mean, it's hard to know how much of this is anybody else and how much of it is him. I don't want to take credit away from Brett Veach or Andy Reid or Chris Jones or Travis Kelce, but he is a miracle worker. Nobody else could do what Mahomes is doing. Nobody, not Tom Brady, not Peyton Manning.
While I will agree with that, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I just think it's a very good point to make, because I do agree to an extent with you. We'll never know, but there have been some historic quarterbacks talent-wise throughout the years. Peyton Manning, how many has he won? 2. Aaron Rodgers, how many has he won? He was known for a 10-year stretch as, even when Brady was winning all those, it was Rodgers. I think we kind of forget that because of the injuries and the off the field stuff. And all that. Dude was known at one point in time as the most talented quarterback to ever play. Right?
He's probably the second most still.
Right?
I think, yeah.
He has one. So as great as a quarterback can be, and I love Mahomes, I'm not taking anything away from him. I do think there is still a need for roster construction, and you can say it's both, because we saw some pretty damn good quarterbacks, and their hands have a lot of rings missing.
I think the Green Bay Packers failed Aaron Rodgers. As I'm a huge Jordan Love fan. I believed in him before last season. I think the pick was a good pick long term, but short term, they really failed Aaron Rodgers. That they would have given him another weapon, the weapon he wanted, Justin Jefferson. I mean, he's probably got another ring. So yeah, it's really interesting. We won't know. I agree that the Chiefs do not have 3 titles without Brett Veach. And I also think Mahomes, no matter where he went in the NFL, he'd probably have a Super Bowl by now. He wouldn't have 3. I honestly think Mahomes is so good. If he goes to the Chicago Bears, they find a way to win one. That's how good he is. But he doesn't have 3, you know? I mean, it's just hard to quantify this, right?
Teamwork makes the dream work, baby.
Teamwork does make the dream work. And the Chiefs have a lot of good players. I mean, we haven't mentioned Creed Humphrey yet. We haven't mentioned Nick Bolton yet. We didn't mention L'Jarius Sneed, who played out of his goddamn mind last year. Yeah. So it takes a lot of players, and we've seen them figure out messes before. Every team goes through these kind of team building issues, and the Chiefs always have more answers to the test than any other front office, any other team. So I think we just have to trust that Andy Reid, Brett Veach, and Patrick Mahomes are going to huddle around this and figure out what they need in case Rashee Rice isn't available. They're going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for you today, guys. I wish it was a more pleasant show. I mean, it's not fun to talk about the star. I don't know if he's a star, but the up and coming receiver that everybody was so excited about last season, kind of, screwing things up. But that's where we're at, and it's officially closing time. Props to our chat and members. We appreciate you guys. Please subscribe to the AAA podcast anywhere you can find podcasts, and also here on the YouTube channel. That way you never miss a show. Join us next Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Central, right here on the Arrowhead Addict channel. Until then, go Chiefs.